Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to unpack a pretty incredible origin story of the universe. It's a philosophical one, and it sees all of reality, everything you see around you, as emerging from a single ancient principle. We're going on a journey from absolute nothingness all the way to the infinite complexity of the cosmos, all based on a really fascinating text. Okay, so let's start with an analogy from our source material to kind of set the stage. Think about Mendeleev and the periodic table. Long before we discovered most of the chemical elements, he saw this hidden pattern, right? A fundamental order in everything. And when new elements were found, they just slotted right into place. That's the key idea here. Even in what looks like total chaos, there's often a blueprint just waiting to be understood.
So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to trace the story of creation step by step. We'll follow what you could call a cosmic cascade, starting from a state that existed before existence itself, and following it all the way to an intricate code that supposedly governs the entire universe.
Our source text builds its whole theory on this ancient sequence, a blueprint for the cosmos that it says has been described for thousands of years. So this isn't some brand new idea, but a really deep interpretation of a very old one. And this sequence right here is our guide. It basically describes a chain reaction. Wuji gives birth to Taiji, then Taiji gives birth to Liangyi, and it just keeps going. Each stage pops up logically from the one that came before it. All right, let's dive in, starting right at the very, very beginning. Or actually, let's go back even further, to before the beginning.
So our whole journey starts with this concept called Wuji. This is the primordial state, the one that came before existence, before space, and yeah, even before time itself.
Wuji is, well, it's not really an empty void. It's described as this huge paradox. It's a state that held all the potential for everything that would ever come to be, but it had no shape, no substance, no dimensions. It's the ultimate everything and the ultimate nothing, all at the exact same time. It's a lot to wrap your head around, I know. And what's really fascinating here is how Wuji is basically defined by what it isn't. No inside or outside, no big or small. It's a reality so fundamental that our normal ways of understanding things just don't work. It's a state that's totally beyond measure.
To help us kind of get this, the text uses this awesome analogy from the story Journey to the West. The Monkey King, Sun Wukong, gets trapped inside this golden symbol. When he tries to escape by growing huge, this symbol grows right along with him. When he shrinks down to the size of a seed, this symbol shrinks too. And that's how space worked in Wuji. It wasn't some fixed box. It was defined by whatever was in it. So no matter meant no space.
And that same kind of mind-bending logic goes for time, too. The source compares it to, say, putting meat in a refrigerator. The cold slows down all the cellular motion, which extends the meat's time before it goes bad. Well, in Wuji, there was zero motion at all, and so there was simply no time. Time only gets to start when things start moving. Okay, so here's the big question, right? If everything is just trapped in this motionless, timeless, sizeless state of Wuji, how does the universe ever get started? How does something pop out of this ultimate nothing?
Well, the source suggests it was a moment of pure, random chance. Imagine all this formless energy just swirling in the chaos of Wuji. Then, for just an instant, a random, perfect alignment happened. And that single point of order acted like a seed, causing all that latent potential in Wuji to just collapse and organize around it, forming a single cosmic vortex of pure energy.
This new state is called Taiji, or the Supreme Ultimate. It's not nothing anymore. It's now one. A unified, single entity, full of immense but still unexpressed energy. The text even compares it to concepts like the Tao, or the Spirit of God just before the act of creation.
So, we've gone from 0 to 1. But to create a universe with all the variety and contrast we see, you need the next number. And that next step in the cascade is the creation of 2, or Liangyi. This is the fundamental duality that, according to the text, is the foundation for our entire reality.
So how does this big split happen? Well, this is where the text posits something pretty extraordinary. It says that the intense concentration of energy at the very core of Taiji spontaneously created a structure, and from that perfect, complex structure, consciousness emerged. An awareness that could look at itself and actually begin the act of creation.
And this slide illustrates the very first thing that this brand new cosmic consciousness did. It split the unified energy of Taiji into two different states. You had the energy that had actually taken form, the seen, like a star. And then you had the energy that was still just formless potential, the unseen.
And this single fundamental split becomes the blueprint for every single opposition and contrast we experience in the universe. You know, yin and yang, positive and negative, light and dark, they are all just expressions of this very first division. This is literally the birth of a universe of contrasts.
Okay, once duality is in place, the process of creation doesn't just keep going, it accelerates. It cascades exponentially, building more and more complexity from these really simple starting blocks. So, the two forms of Liangyi combine to create the four phenomena or Xixiang. You can think of them as fundamental categories, like the cardinal directions. Then, those four generate the 8 trigrams of the Bagua, which represent core elements of reality like heaven, earth, fire, and water. You can see the pattern, right? 2 gives you 4, 4 gives you 8.
This whole creative cascade builds and builds until it reaches a final, foundational number that, according to our source, contains the entire blueprint for reality as we know it.
That number is 64. It's actually pretty simple. You take the 8 fundamental trigrams of the Bagua, and you combine them with each other in every possible way. 8 times 8 gives you 64 unique hexagrams, and the source describes these as the 64 fundamental factors, ingredients, or codes of the cosmos. Now, this is the really crucial point. The text claims that everything in the universe, everything from physical laws to biological life, from just simple everyday events to things we might call miracles, is just a different combination of these 64 underlying codes. It's like reality is a cosmic recipe that only has 64 basic ingredients.
The text then makes some pretty incredible claims about historical figures. It suggests that people like Zhou Wenwang, the Buddha, and even Jesus were able to do extraordinary things, not through magic, but because they had an intuitive understanding of how to combine these fundamental factors of reality. They knew parts of the cosmic recipe.
And all of this brings us to a final, really provocative thought that our source leaves us with. We've traced this incredible path of emergent order, all the way from the nothingness of Wuji to the 64 codes of reality. So, if the universe truly operates on a set of fundamental principles, a kind of cosmic recipe, what becomes possible when that recipe is fully, completely understood?